Welcome to the Government News Brief for Thursday, October 13, 2016. In the news, President David Granger addresses Parliament. The United Nations Development Programme is assisting Guyana to meet obligations on the Rio Conventions. Cuban medical graduates are being familiarized with public health programs, and the government is working to improve passport services. Stay tuned for the details. Thank you for staying with us. I am Renetta LaFleur. Now for the details. President David Granger today addresses the 43rd sitting of the 11th Parliament. Some of the areas covered in the President's address include extended telecommunications as a major driver of economic diversification, new National Intelligence and Security Agency to be formed, UK assistance to curb drug trade, wardens to patrol hinterland communities to prevent illegal logging, hunting and mining, and decentralized public services to be accelerated in 2017. The President also indicated that 2017 would see a professional foreign service. The United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, is assisting Guyana to build technical capacity to meet and sustain obligations under the 3 Rio Conventions this country has signed on to. Tiffany Rodias tells us more.
The Rio Conventions, which Guyana became a signatory to in 1992, are the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity, UNCDB, the Convention to Combat Desertification and Drought, UNCCD, and Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC. Today, the UNDP had its first meeting with stakeholders in the environmental sector and focal point representatives of these conventions to outline how the project will be undertaken. The project is being funded by the Global Environment Facility, GEF. This 4-year project seeks to address the challenges local focal points for the Rio Conventions face. Head of the Office of Climate Change, Janelle Christian, says one of the major challenges is accessing information.
The Office of Climate Change, the focal point for the UNFCCC, have experienced and continues to experience the challenges of not having a central repository of data and information on cross-sectoral policies, plans, and climate actions being implemented in Guyana or that are in the pipeline for development. There is little collaboration or communication on activities being undertaken by government ministries and agencies and non-state actors.
These challenges are similar for the Guyana Lands and Surveys Commission, which is the focal point for the Convention to Combat Desertification and Drought, and the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, which is the focal point for the UN Convention on Biodiversity. Director of the Department of Environment, which is the executing entity for the projects, says the project is timely.
The general theme of the project captures the necessity for improved coordination, better data or information management, improved monitoring, and strengthened institutional mechanism.
The highlight of the 4-component project will be the creation of an Environmental Information Monitoring and Management System, EIMMS. This integrated database will assist policymakers in national planning and decision-making in line with the objectives of the Rio Conventions. For the Government News Brief, I'm Tiffany Rojas.
Cuban medical graduates are being familiarized with programs in the public health system. Delicia Haynes has the details.
The latest batch of medical doctors who graduated through the Guyana-Cuba Scholarship Program this year are at a 2-day training session organized by the Ministry of Public Health. Minister within the Ministry of Public Health, Dr. Karen Cummins, says the training will allow the doctors to become familiar with the programs and objectives of the ministry.
During the next 2 days, you will learn of the many programs being undertaken within the various departments of the ministry. And as a consequence, you will have a very lucid understanding of the very high expectations required of each of you.
After the training, the doctors will be placed at district and regional hospitals on the coast for 18 months. After the 18-month stint, the doctors will be rotated and deployed to health centers and other health facilities, including those in the hinterland. Minister of Public Health, Dr. George Norton, urged the new doctors to give exceptional service.
Being in the medical fraternity, studying in the same country, should pit us to a good relationship in our efforts to develop quality healthcare to the Guyanese nation and to continue to increase that quality.
79 of these doctors have spent 5 years studying general medicine in Cuba before returning to Guyana. One completed studies in China. The doctors will be required to serve as government medical officers for a period of 5 years. For the Government News Brief, I am Delicia Haynes.
Indigenous communities across Guyana are being encouraged to align their development plans with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which include no poverty, zero hunger, and sustainable cities and communities. Isaiah Braffett reports.
Aligning the development of indigenous villages with the SDGs is being done through a local sustainable development framework. Minister of Indigenous Peoples Affairs Sidney Allicock says that the SDF is critical in eliminating poverty.
I believe that we could only fight poverty with those people who knows about poverty, getting them involved to show us or show the team what it is their needs are.
The Sustainable Development Framework requires indigenous communities to produce a 10-year developmental plan. According to Minister Allicock, the Sustainable Development Framework will give indigenous peoples guidance as to how they can achieve the SDGs.
What the village needs, how can they get the support, and who can they go to for support? Who are the main partners? How do they address climate change? How do they coordinate when there is drought and floods? How do they plan and contribute to the SDGs?
Allicock notes that in order for indigenous villages to achieve the SDGs, the villages need to work together.
We also have to take into consideration the many or other interest groups, other indigenous groups for advice. And they only could give us advice if we share what we are doing.
The Sustainable Development Framework is currently being rolled out in Region 9 and Region 2 is next. The process will continue until it is in all the indigenous communities. For the Government News Brief, Isaiah Braffett.
The government is assessing the number of house lots that persons would have paid for and received titles but are not occupying. Delon Sanko has that report.
Minister within the Ministry of Communities, Valerie Adams-Patterson, says the government will have to look at how to deal with persons who were not occupying the house lots they were allocated. She says many homeowners have had to expend significant sums to clear adjoining lots because persons who own the lots near to them are not building nor maintaining their lots.
All over that I've been, people are complaining about empty house lots that are close to them, that they have to clean because of reptiles. Some people live in there 10 and 12, 20 years and have never seen anybody come on that empty lot next to them.
The ministry has been checking housing development areas for unoccupied lots and is encouraging others to help in this process. While a number of house lots remain unoccupied, the government is struggling to find lots for more than 25,000 applications in the system.
I've asked persons to bring those numbers in. When we check them, people have titles, people have transports. We can't just go and take it because they have paid for it, they own it.
The government has proceeded to build condos and duplex. This will also help to address the increase in applications that the government is expecting when the age of acquiring a house lot moves from 21 to 18. Delon Sanko for the Government News Brief.
Mainstay plans to incorporate agriculture and tourism. Find out how in this Tiffany Rodius report.
Tushao of Mainstay Wayaka Village in Region 2, Joel Fredericks, says efforts are underway to transition from pineapple farming to fruit farming. This is being done through the Village Community Development Project.
We have started fruit farming. We have cleared 11 acres of land to plant permanent crops. The reason why we want to do that is we've been involved in pineapple production all the years, and we want to try something new. Because of the shifting cultivation, when you do pineapple, you have to shift to different areas.
According to Fredericks, the residents identified the project because it could increase earnings from products as well as be an attraction for visitors. He said the fruits from the farm would be used to make jams, jelly, and juice, and the proceeds would go towards establishing a small guest house for tourists.
Through it all, we want to create a tourist package, agro-tourism package. So when tourists come to Mainstay, you can have the opportunity to visit the farm, have the experience to pick a fruit. You can go to the factory and see how it is processed.
The project is being undertaken utilizing funds from the $5 million grant under the Amerindian Development Fund, ADF, Guyana Red Plus Investment Fund, GRIF. Frederick says that works have already begun and is quickly moving apace. For the Government News Brief, I'm Tiffany Rogers.
Public Telecommunication Ministry is collaborating with Citizenship to improve passport services. Delon Sanko has the details.
The Ministry of Public Telecommunications will soon collaborate with the Ministry of Citizenship to make a more effective passport application system. Minister Hughes says ICT will be used to make this process easier and faster.
We want to get to the stage very soon, by next year, where you not only have the passport form, but you can fill it in. That form then goes back to the passport office. That there are mechanisms in place for people and the staff at the passport office to go through your form to make sure you have all the information there.
Minister Hughes noted that improvements to the system will fast-track the process and the waiting time would be less time-consuming.
The end result is that whole process that you would have had to come down to the passport office, line up, take a number, sit there for 5 hours, not forgetting that unfortunately we have people not from Georgetown, but as we saw recently, people from Berbice, from Essequibo, that come down and waste. And all those hours waiting to be able to get there, to hand over their form.
The Ministry of Public Telecommunications was established in January of 2016 with a mission to have a strategic placement of ICT in Guyana's development agenda. Delon Sanko for the Government News Brief.
Today, October 13, Guyana joins with the rest of the world in observing World Sight Day. World Sight Day is observed under the theme Stronger Together. World Sight Day is to promote the awareness and global focus on blindness and visual impairment as a major public health issue. Approximately 285 million people worldwide live with low vision and blindness, while 39 million of these people are actually blind. However, 80% of visual impairment is avoidable through treatable and preventable measures. We have come to the end of today's edition of the Government News Brief. The details of these and other stories can be found on GINA's website. GINA has an active Facebook page, and we encourage you to visit and like us so you can be informed as the news unfolds. Do join us again tomorrow for another edition of the Government News Brief. I am Renata LaFleur. Thank you for watching.